The fall of Saigon buried countless secrets which have continued to mystify and intrigue historians for decades. For the first time, a critical part of the war, previously classified, is disclosed by both North Vietnam's leadership and the Americans, rewriting the history of the Vietnam War. This documentary will take you through Death Gate. There was one crossing point from North Vietnam into Laos, which truck drivers carrying weapons to fight in the south called Death Gate. This was part of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, North Vietnam's logistical supply line. These were suicide missions. Each driver to enter the gate expected to die, trying to traverse the desert of fire. This was a secret war, as neither the Americans nor the Vietnamese should have been in Laos. Death Gate was the main route into Laos, so all military tactics available to both sides were deployed here. This gate was critical for victory, as whoever won the territory here would know that they could overcome the other side's military strategies, which would lead them to victory. In one last attempt, the Americans tried to cut the trail in the Battle of Lam Son 719. The Americans held the upper hand. The Communists dealt the final blow. Through Death Gate, Vietnam's secret war. This social history documentary is presenter-driven by Dr. Virginia Morris, author and historian on the Vietnam War. Dr. Morris was the first Westerner to have walked 700 kilometers along the Ho Chi Minh Trail since the end of the conflict in 1975. This pioneering journey was the only reason why Death Gate was discovered. No other historian or film crew will be given permission to enter this part of Laos. Using Dr. Morris's extraordinary journey along Death Gate as the main thread, she will reveal the myth of the Ho Chi Minh Trail and what drove her to spend 10 years of her life putting together this vast cloak and dagger jigsaw. Why was what she saw on the ground different to what had been recorded in history? Each answer produced more questions. Gaining trust through careful diplomacy and respect for her highly dangerous expedition, only now the veil of secrecy can be lifted and Vietnam's darkest secret can be revealed. In America, Dr. Morris uncovers real-life stories of covert operations along the Ho Chi Minh Trail carried out by America's most elite special forces. Viewing remarkable footage from cameras smuggled on board dangerous top-secret missions.
We were pretty much told we were on our own if we get shot down. When I went over in '68, they took away our dog tags and ID, and pretty much later on in the year they didn't bother anymore.
SOG, the highly classified studies and observations group drawn from US Special Forces elitist. An unconventional force which took volunteers only, they were ordered to gather intelligence in America's secret black operations or dirty war.
I knew nothing really about them. I had heard it at Fort Bragg. Everybody would say, oh, there's a unit called SOG. And you'd say, well, what do they do? And we were told, well, nobody really knew, but everybody gets killed or wounded that goes into it. So that's kind of what we knew about SOG.
Assigned the toughest, deepest infiltration missions, aimed at the heart of North Vietnam's military elite and her allies. Why were just 600 men given the largest and most important mission of the war? This story exposes this top-secret unit of just 600 Americans and their military tactics. At times, this vital trail disappeared under intense US bombing. In tonnage, the equivalent to more than a dozen Hiroshimas were dropped on lower Laos alone. From pilots in the air to ground troops on covert missions, why could they not close Death Gate? Dr. Morris gains unparalleled access to the North Vietnamese military machine to disclose how their formerly clandestine tactics overcame intense US bombing. General Vo Nhu Wing Giap, Commander-in-Chief of the People's Army of Vietnam and Master of Guerrilla Warfare and Logistics, reveals his extraordinary tactical doctrine, the Ho Chi Minh Trail, his road to victory. This vast military supply line stretched through mountainous dense jungle for 20,000 kilometers across Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam, becoming the largest battlefield of the war. Death Gate was their main way into Laos and had to be kept open at any cost. Virginia interviews the commander of the trail, Dong Si Newing, who is credited for much of the resourceful thinking which led to victory. To keep the trail functional, a labyrinth of army camps were established to accommodate an army of 100,000 of both men and women. For the first time, the location of previously secret underground tunnel complexes, 5,000 kilometers of pipeline supplying fuel from China, and the vast communications network which coordinated efforts are exposed. This documentary will uncover why the Americans had to keep the Ho Chi Minh Trail out of the media. How would the war have ended if it was possible to stop the flow of weapons and supplies through Death Gate? Drawn in by communist propaganda campaigns, American media focused on the Tet Offensive as being the turning point of the Vietnam War. Only now, many years later, can it be revealed that this masked a critical decision made by General Giap a year earlier. A decision which led to the Tet Offensive. A decision which led the American government to denial, and the trail becoming a military enigma, and ultimately to communist victory. With extraordinary and rare access to the North Vietnamese leadership and newly declassified documents, Virginia Morris has been able to piece together the truth from both sides of the conflict and expose what really happened in Vietnam. This is the story of how a peasant army brought a superpower to its knees through an innovative use of military, economic and political tactics, and how close the North was to defeat, vital strategies of the trail, and how futile the idea of bombing this jungle highway was.
It's a pretty hopeless battle. I mean, you'd go in and see parts of the trail bombed, and you'd come back the next day and it was all fixed. So some of the things just didn't make sense to me, but of course I wasn't in charge of things. So.
How can any of the lessons be learned when we do not understand what the truth was? 3 million Vietnamese and 58,000 Americans died. May 2009 will be the 50th anniversary of the secret war. I seriously doubt if we will ever have another war. This is probably the very last one. Richard M. Nixon.